Hello friend, it's Pat Sloan here for my daily video, and we've got the topic of the day and some other little things about, I don't know, a little bit of obsessive compulsiveness of mine. Let's see if we'll see if you share the same thing. So our topic of the day is sewing tchotchkes. Do you know what the word tchotchkes is? Sewing trinkets, sewing little figurines, cute things, maybe signs, anything that is sewing related that isn't really something you use, you decorate with. So I don't actually have a lot of those. I have over the years. They've come and they've gone. I will pass them along for somebody else to enjoy after I've had them for a while. But one of the ones I've had for a while now is something that my baby lock people gave me at an event, which is a little crystal sewing machine. I think it's so pretty, and it's tiny. I also have like a pretty thimble that my friend Jenny Smith gave me. But it's still like a thimble is still something usable, even though it's a pretty thimble. So I'm like thinking tchotchkes are things like this, where they don't have a function. You might have a little music box, a little sewing music box. I've seen people with those. Sewing clocks, those kind of things. So share that over at my Facebook group, Quilt Along with Pat Sloan. And if you're not in the group, which you should be, you can just leave a comment here and tell me about it. And speaking of comments, I want to thank everybody who has been sending me notes and thoughts about how to deal with the swelling I have still in the fingers and the motion, because it's getting flexible. See, it's getting flexible, but it's very tight. It's not the right hand is much better, but you've been sending me some notes about what you've done. I've had some lovely long emails, and I really appreciate that. I'm keeping them. I'm looking at what I can try to do. Mine has been going on a long time now, so this is like 4.5 months. So I'm sort of in this other place than when it just happens. But it's improving. Everything's improving. And I had a great tip for repeating this, like the stretching every hour, which, think about that. You have to stop every hour and spend 10 minutes doing something. Give it a try today. Just set your timer every hour. And that's kind of how fractured my day has been for months now. It's difficult, but I'm getting used to it because it's going to continue for a while. Okay, so what else is going on? I got the pink Snowflake back. Look at that. Look how pretty it is. Now I do have the red Jingle Bell fabric for binding, which is one of the prints that's on there. Came from the line. And so I'm going to do the red Jingle Bell fabric, and I just love it. See the strip hanging? Maybe you can't see it, but here is the backing is my Morrison Park, so I put that on the back. And so I have to work on getting that binding. But I want to tell you something that happened, is that when I did the Give Thanks panel, when that was also quilted, Cindy and Dennis did this and they did that. They're doing all of them right now. all the things. Cindy and Dennis are quilting at the spa. But when I got ready to put the binding on, what did I do? I went to my bin of brown fabric because I was putting brown binding on. I went into the bin. I found a brown fabric that would work because I didn't have any yardage from that fabric line. I just had the layer cake, and I didn't want a piece of border onto it. So I found a brown fabric, put it in there. That's great. Well, then I went, I don't know, a week later, and I opened the drawer down here in this cabinet and I went like, oh, I forgot that I was putting binding and labels down there. So what I find, the label I made to go on that quilt, which of course didn't go on it. I made a new one, and I found the binding that I had saved to use, which I didn't use. I used a different one. So I'm like, I don't know why. This is a fairly new thing for me to put all of that binding in there. And so since that just happened, and I got this one out last night to trim it, I thought, yes, let me look in there, and there is the binding for this one. The thing is, I do have a fabric in there that I don't know what it's for. There's no note on it. I'm like, what is this one for? It's navy. And so at some point, once I get this sort of group that's been coming in recently and getting them back out, I think that fabric is for something from a while ago, you know, like maybe a year or so ago. So I don't know. I'm going to have to figure it out because it's driving me nuts. Every time I look in there now, I'm like, why is this in here? I don't remember what this is for. So does that happen to you? Like you create a plan, like and like you put the stuff in the place, and then you totally forget you did the whole thing. So it's like, you know. But now I remembered. The other thing I wanted to share with you is a little obsessive compulsive thing that I finally solved, and I need now to make the dang quilt. Because there's a quilt that Adita Sitar, my friend from Laundry Basket, designed quite a few years ago. And it's a fall quilt. The pattern's still available. I'll link you to the pattern. But she does patterns, you know, a bunch of patterns that go with her fabric lines. And she's very prolific. She does lots of fabric lines. And this was quite a long time ago, this one. Oh, it says on here 2016. So, you know, that was probably written 5 years ago. So the fabric line is probably about 5 years old. Well, every year, I didn't get the fabric. I would have just needed like a layer cake at the time, so I didn't get it. And then my friend Cindy that's at the spa, Cindy made it. And so every year she puts hers up and she shows me a picture of how she decorated. I'm like, oh, I need to get some of that fabric. And so I would go look for it. And I would find some somewhere, and then I'd be like, oh, I can just pull my own fabric. And then I did this every single year for like the past 3 years. Every time Cindy would show hers. Well, this year I decided, like, heck, I can barely find any of that fabric that Adita used for her original one. And so I did manage to find a few pieces. And then I found some other fabrics. And I made myself, here, I'm going to have to pull this down. It's too heavy to lift. So I made myself this little package of fabrics. So like under here are the ones from Adita. I was able to find all of these at one quilt shop that still had them. That quilt shop, note to self, you need to sell this off because it's old. But I'm glad you still had it. And then I pulled some other fabrics that I owned to get some purples. This is one of my navies. And then I had some of this Kim Deal fabric, and I thought, you know, it's got that same look and feel. Now, granted, this is, like you only use like a square, like a 10-inch square. So I have like all of this stuff now just to make this. Now, I do have a bunch of backgrounds from some French General fabrics that will work for backgrounds, and that will here. And so you see Kim has some here. So I'm going to take these of Kim's, see how many I can get for backgrounds, and then go look at what I have of the French General. So first of all, I'm very excited that I did it. I went ahead and got it. I'm thinking I need to build myself a little kit. Like maybe I will spend some time tracing off the pumpkins and cutting them out and then having them ready so that I'll fuse them and then blanket stitch them on my machine. So that by next fall, I can have this pumpkin quilt. It's like crazy, right? Like what we do, we see something and we didn't get it, and then it's like, it's that fabric that got away. It's the one that got away. It's like if you really love it, sometimes you just need to get it, because if you're still like, even like 3 years later thinking, I really want to make that. Okay, so now I'm going to make it, rather than leaving it sit, I'm going to make it a point to put it into my rotation. It's like a little side evening project. When it's later at night and I don't feel real motivated to do something where I have to concentrate, I can trace pumpkins on a heat and bond light. Yes, I can do that. Okay. I also got the Paris panel down, and I got some quilting on it. So here's the Paris panel. So for those of you who hadn't seen it yet, and the links are all below. And also I'm trying to put the links in the first comment that's pinned up there. If that works, you might see it there. So here's the panel, and I did the border. Let me just show you. Get up here. So I did the border, and the border has these roses, and what I did was just sort of very loose open stitching. I don't know if you can see it. I'll hold still for a second. I did some really loose open stitching that sort of mimicked the flower. Now I'm going to flip it around so that you can see on the back at the top edge. So there, you know, there it is. So they're just sort of loosely, like if you were hand drawing and made very loose like this, just sort of like, and then you do a little bit in the middle and then go around. I also did the one side here. Is that right? Yeah. So there actually is a yellow like etching, like the fabric itself has this pale yellow etched flowers, so they're not the dark flowers. So I just outlined them and just sort of followed them with my quilting, and that gives that texture. And then I still have, I'd already done the Eiffel Tower just before I broke my wrist, so it was done. So I still have most of this side from the flowers, for about 3/4 of this side to do. So that's not bad. I'm being able, this isn't real big, so there isn't a lot of stress on my wrists, and my wrists are getting stronger with the exercises, with Stella, the hand gripper, and other exercises I have to do. So that's helping me get that strength. But because it's not a big piece, I can easily push it around under the machine. So I'm very happy to get that one done too, because that's kind of that was right in the middle of when, I had to leave it right in the middle for 4.5 months. I'm like, when I didn't intend to do that. So that one definitely has to get finished by the end of the year. All right, so I dropped something. Let me get it. All right, I dropped the pattern. So I want to show you last thing I've been doing over the weekend is I put my cross stitch out. Whoops. I put the cross stitch out to do. And so I've been working on the coffee mug. And okay, so take a look. Look at the coffee mug on the pattern and look at my coffee mug. So I'm going to have a chubby coffee mug. If you're on my Facebook group, I showed you that yesterday, that my coffee mug will be chubby because I forgot to do some of the indents that needed to be done sooner. Here, I'll hold it up a second. So you needed to do some indents sooner than I did. So I've got like this, chunky diner coffee mug rather than this kind of pretty slender mug. So I'm deciding I might just do like some sort of fat pedestal on it instead. So I'll just sort of redesign it a little bit. Oh well, that's like I messed that up, but it's not messed up really. It's just unique. It's uniquely me, the chubby coffee mug. Okay, show me your tchotchkes. Tell me about what you have, what you might be your prized possession of a lovely sewing machine or sewing oriented item that's just for decoration. So links are all down below. I love you, my friends. Mwah. See you online.